example, designing efficient campus networks, whereby you have your backbone and then access network. So that is well structured. We have also mentioned issues to do with managing power, power issues, which are always a huge problem in many universities. And then also, a related issue is the issue of number of PC to student ratio, right? That's always a very big problem. And the solution that, for example, Baraton had of having students buy laptops is one strategy of trying to overcome that that huge problem, which is also related to budgets, university budgets. So perhaps what I'll ask is John from Kuwait. In the design of the Catholic University network, is it a structured design? Does it have, for example, a core network, a distribution network, an access network? And as you also do that, you probably please tell us how you overcome the issue of having sufficient PCs for students, in the teaching labs, as well as labs where they do the assignments, and probably also whether you've had budgetary constraints in provisioning for the computers, the power systems, as well as other networks on campus. Yeah, and then we'll invite questions from the floor. So perhaps I let him answer that.
Thank you very much. I think, as my colleague here mentioned, our experience generally combines both reaction action and planned action. So in a way, if I'm to say whether the network is structured or it just evolved, to some extent there was some evolution out of a feel this is the way to go. Everyone is now embracing this, let us have this. And, but then, the next reaction was, yes, we need to do some structure. So there is some kind of backbone around the campuses, and then distribution points, because we have the different halls where you have, of course, we also have both the wired and the wireless, and you have hot points for the wireless, where hotspots where you have different buildings, and even the main campus is a bit distributed, because you have the main campus, then the upper campus, and now the new learning resource center. So there are three segments, and they are all connected both by the wired and the wireless. And to address the issue of ratio of computers to students, yes, we have labs whereby students are able to go on commonly owned resources. But also the option to encourage people to have their own laptops and use the wireless is available. And we also are grateful to the project, the Wezesha project, which really boosted the student participation in having their own computers, their own laptops. Of course, we have also a big section of students who come as mature students, who already are able to have access of their own, from their own resources. So the financial implications and the challenges are again made through a combination of approaches. The third point was? Yes, the budget issues. The budget issues are a big problem. Because, for instance, last year, as we were preparing the annual budget for this academic year, we gave a budget for ICT of a figure. Let me say, I shall say, it was about 98 million. And when eventually we got the budget, it had been cut down by 2/3. So we were told, no, you will have to work within a budget of 30 million. However, it is not really as bad as that, because some of the elements that we had included in our budget we were corrected that they do not belong to our budget. So I think the problem was the mechanism and the methodology for actually developing the budget. So we could say around 2/3 of the budget we got, because they are including those other components which were taken to other sections. So 2/3 of the budget we got, but 1/3 we did not get. So that means that there is constraint. There is constraint. But somehow that is how we have to operate within those limits.
Yes, I can say budget is one of the critical things that we experience, especially at Baraton. And one of the things that we try to do, we have tried to, as I've said, try to take away the burden of providing computers, especially for personal use to students. Of course, we have to provide the computers for lab and lab services and all that, but we try as much as possible to take away the burden of providing the computers, especially, let's say, for doing social things like Facebooking and all that to the students. The next thing I can say is that we have tried also to use equipment which are affordable. Our network runs on microchip routers, which are quite cheap when you compare probably to many other. But it's not because they are any superior, it is because they are more affordable to us. We've also tried to use open source systems, like most of our networks, and also that partly contributes to the problem. We use some PCs to act as routers. So again, that one helps in terms of budgetary whatever. But of course, it has got a downside to it, because some of the PCs can never be as good as routers in terms of power consumption and also in terms of their uptime. And so that's a downside to it. In terms of what he asked, in terms of the structures of the network, our network, we've structured it in such a way that it's subnetted. We have got the core network, and then we have got the distribution networks, and then we have got the access. And each network has got its own address scheme, so we're able to know traffic coming from every network. And basically what we've done, every building has got its own network. Again, we've done that at layer 3 level, that is using routers. And our future plan is to be able to use things like VLANs, which would probably be better than using physical routers, because at the end of the day, you end up having so many routers within the network.
Okay. I think we know the gentleman answer the questions, and we can start probably with the answer.
Okay, thank you for the questions. And I think most of us share the same thing. I will try to be as brief as possible at the time. The first question was on maintenance and the policies that we have on maintenance. It is true that maintenance is always an issue. And so what we did, part of the project, as I said, it was funded by senior class, graduating senior class. And one of the things that they asked us is, how are you going to maintain this project? Will we deploy it, and then after we go, it's gone? And so what we told them was that the ICT department will take charge in that. And what we told them is that, when you have a wireless system, let's say in the door, if it fails, the students will ask why. We want that because they're used to it. And as I will come to the bandwidth, you'll find that there's so much uptake on bandwidth from both sides. So first of all, that brings about the issue of sustainability. But maintenance, I want to share from what my colleague said there. We only have 4 IT personnel, including myself. We are not able to run both the wired and wireless network. So what we've done is to have students, we've trained students. We have a program called Work Program. where students earn money while they are still in school. So we take students, we take them through a normal, hiring process. We take them through an interview. Once we select, we train them on the wireless. We give them targets, and we tell them, so we give, like, for example, this group of students, you will be managing wireless relating to the dorm. You will be managing wireless relating to off-campus, because we do also provide off-campus, and I'm going to touch on authentication because of that. And other group of students, two usually, will touch on residential houses. And what they do is that at the end of the day, every day I get a report on what each of those networks, how it's doing. And therefore, I'm able actually to know, like, for example, this network has gone down, there is this challenge, and the other. So that's how we try to manage, because it has a big strain on ICT support. The second thing is on authentication, and it is true. When we are thinking about authentication, there was the aspect of using web keys and all that. But what we felt was that a centralized authentication would be better, so that users can go from anywhere. You can either be off campus, whether you're in the field, whether you're in the dorm, you just use one username and password. One, we have used automatically, we automatically give network settings, DHCP, DNS, so people get that automatically. So from wherever they are, so long as they choose the network SSID at that level, they get automatic network configuration, and then they use the same username and password. MikroTik comes with an inbuilt user manager, which uses a radial server, an LDAP, and it also uses a radial server. So you're able to do authentication on that. And that also helps to authenticate against people, because we do provide network services for off-campus students, those who stay outside the university, but they have to get a username and password. And for them, of course, to get that, they go through a process where we identify that they are genuine students for the university. Then there is the aspect of intrusion detection. What we do is that, again, we are not very perfect in this, but we do check, like, for example, on the logs. Usually, like from the MikroTik, when you go to the logs, what you've done is that the moment you log in, you're able to see the number of attempts that people have tried to either hit to your system. And in fact, I can say, since we had increased bandwidth, I have noticed a higher number of people trying to access our system. So you can see so many strange IPs which were trying to get to your system, and you can see trying with different usernames and all that. So we for now, we just use logs, but we are planning to use a better monitoring system, especially for intrusion detection. We have not yet been able to do that. The other one is on managing bandwidth, because of the increased usage. It is true. Our bandwidth, we are only a population of about 1,700 students. We take bandwidth from KENET about 36 MB. On a daily basis, we use up to 32, 34 MB. A student population of 1,500 students. And that's very high. So we do have problems with that. But what we do is that, one, we have a monitoring server. We use Cacti, so we're able to monitor bandwidth. And what we do is that, because we have segmented our networks, we are able to know the bandwidth consumed at each and every point. So the wireless, first we know the bandwidth that it consumes, and the wired network, we know the bandwidth it consumes. Then we also go to the buildings. Each subnet, we're able to know this subnet A uses this much bandwidth, and subnet B uses this much bandwidth. And then, what we try to do is, we've deployed a proxy server. We've used Squid. Most of our systems, we try to use open source, again, because of cost issues. So we've used Squid to try and limit on the download that people can do. We also use MikroTik. MikroTik has got an inbuilt firewall system, which is able to, one, limit on the rate at which a person can be able to download something. Second, have a limit on the concurrent connections that one person can be able to have. And also, in terms of, we've also tried to put in time so that during the day, we have stricter rules so that someone can only download up to a certain speed and up to a certain concurrent connections. But at night, we try to leave it open. And also, we've tried to communicate this to our students. Of course, it's always a challenge, but you try to communicate with them that if it's possible for them to know that our core business of the network is to do research. So during the day, we tell them, you can download at night, but during the day, try as much as possible. Of course, this is hard, but we try to communicate that. Then in terms of management from the lab, is a lady who asked that you find it easier to manage from the lab. I didn't understand it very well, but I can say one of the things that we did as a design strategy was to separate our local area network, wired network, and wireless network. And this was for a strategic reason, because we wanted a situation where, one, we give priority, because of course the wired network hosts most of our services. So in case there is a problem, we can always be able, first of all, to eliminate and say, let's first of all shut down the wireless network, let's look. So from a maintenance point of view, it would be easier to separate the two networks if there is an issue and be able to troubleshoot. So it was from that point, but I don't know whether that's what you meant. So, but probably you will try to clarify later. Then there is the issue of balancing between wireless and wired, and I think I've said that. We try to give more priority during the day to the wired network. At night, we leave it open for the wireless network. So what you've done, because both systems are separate, the wireless network is limited in terms of the bandwidth. We give them 10 MB. Then the wired network during the day, it has the rest about 24 MB. At night, we leave it open so that people can be able to download and do all that. Then there was a question of a unified platform for managing security and antenna sets. Again, I've said we've used a MikroTik inbuilt user manager, which uses Radius for authentication. Antenna sets, I say we use MikroTik 5 GHz radios for backhaul, and we use nanostations, which are ubiquity equipments for 2.4 GHz, that is for access points. And then campus network design, training and all that is true. And I would like to thank KENET because of the trainings that we've had. We've had 2 major training, one on campus design and implementation, the other one on wireless design. And in fact, it's from that training that we did the proposal to have our campus wireless. And then, yeah, the other one is also on authentication, so I think I want to touch on that. Thank you.
There was a question on routing, whether you use intra-domain routing on campus.
Okay, what we do, and as I said, this also we probably want to change it. We use routers, so we've subnetted our network, and every network has got a specific router. And so what happens is that we have both static and dynamic routes at the core of the network. So at the core of the network, we have 2 routers, one for wireless, one for wired network. Then at the level of the wired network, we have got different routes, which again point to different routers at the distribution level. So each building has got its own router. Then after that, now of course, we have got the switches that go about that. But what happens is that now we have to have routes for you to be able to go from one network to the other. You have to have routes at the core, which some of them are static, but some of them are dynamic, so that they are able now to, we can now be able to interconnect between one subnet and the other.
Perhaps I will just comment on an issue arising from a number of the questions on security and our experience. Security is a big issue, and also we thank KENET, but also the ICT board, the Kenya ICT board, for the various trainings and events that are relating to that. We have established VLANs, and before that, we were having quite a number of challenges, and in fact, attempts to intrude in our systems. And at one point, yes, there was even such an intrusion. But since the implementation of the VLANs, it has helped us a lot. And security is enhanced by ensuring, especially on the wireless network, that user IDs and the specific machines are entered into the system so that a laptop and its MAC address is always authenticated so that it can have access. That has helped, and we are also using the same kind of the microtik and these arrangements so that security at least is ensured. On the maintenance, we have tried to do everything in-house, but I think now there is the thinking of whether on certain issues we should not outsource, because in-house we might sometimes not be able to achieve the required standard of maintaining our systems. But that is now a policy trend that is under discussion.
Okay, so for wireless authentication, it's possible to have an equivalent of a single sign-on and have it really secure. When you use something like LDAP and WPA2 security or WEP security, you can have a really secure solution such that even if your wireless signal extends outside your university, you can be sure that only your students or your staff who you register on the LDAP or on the radio system, those are the ones who are going to be able to access the internet connection. So it is possible to use cheap or easily available open source solutions to deploy such a setup. Yeah, so